Well, hey guys, what's up? It's your boy, one and only AI Legends. And yeah guys, today I am back with the next part of what if Naruto was abandoned by his family and was banished by Konoha. So yeah guys, hopefully you guys have enjoyed the previous part of this series. If you guys have not done so, please check it out in my channel. I have uploaded the previous part and hopefully I will be able to complete this video as soon as possible along with the series. First of all, I would like to apologize to all of you guys for not uploading any video in this time. It was just that you can say that I was not feeling pretty well in all of this time. Trust me, you can say my condition was not so good, but hopefully I will be able to upload videos regularly from here on as I'm feeling pretty well today. So yeah guys, expect videos from here on. So yeah guys, without any further ado, let us start the video. But before starting this video, I would like to make a request to all of you guys who are watching this video to come on guys, if you guys are new to this channel or if you guys have not subscribed yet, please guys do so. It will really help me a lot. So yeah guys, without any further ado, let us start the video. Last time we left off as we saw that how Naruto fought with Menma as well as Naruto, as Minato has sent off 1000 shinobis along with the Kakashi, who had a new Sharingan in his eyes, as well as Menma and Naruto being the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, as Minato has announced his war on Aiwa, as well as you can say the Stone Village has also announced his war on Konoha, as Konoha was in a tough spot, as Minato and Kushina thought that after they will destroy the seal that was placed upon the secrets of the Uzumaki clan, as well as they will have the weapon of the Sage of Six Paths, the weapon which said to have the power to control all the Bijus, as Minato wanted that for himself. When all the Jinchurikis are in the opposite villages, he should be able to control all of them with his weapon, and then he should be able to destroy all of them, thus making Konoha to be the strongest village in all history. That was the master plan, but it was all destroyed because the weapon, which was as well as the secrets of the Uzumaki clan, was simply taken away by the one they never thought they will see ever in their life. That was none other than their abandoned son, as Minato was furious along with Kushina. She had waited for years to have that weapon in her hand, but it was to no avail. After all, she did betray her clan, only that so she could achieve all of that power for herself. Now it was all gone, as Minato has sent off Menma and Naruto to fight off the army of Aiwa according to the information he got. But Kakashi was beyond shock when his, you can say, abandoned student was there, as Naruto literally destroyed all of them, as he simply controlled both Menma and Naruto with their chakra, and both Menma and Naruto went into the form of berserker Jinchurikis and started to slaughter the army of Konoha, as Kakashi tried to attack Naruto once again, but Naruto ripped his arm off along with his eye, as Kakashi was also pretty furious about it. And finally, Naruto absorbed the chakra of both Menma and Naruto, thus giving Kurama his full power back, as Kurama was more than happy, as his tail started to grow, as he has finally achieved the power that was once roamed the world, and now he was even stronger than that. Kurama has achieved the power of 10 tails. He was no longer the 9-tailed fox, but the 10-tailed demon fox. And Naruto gained all of that power for himself. So yeah guys, that was the last part. Let us start from here on with a small time skip, as Minato as well as all the council members were sitting across the council, as Minato had a look of pure anger on his face, as finally a member started to walk in, as Minato simply looked towards him. Did you find him? As it was none other than Jiraiya, who simply shook his head. Well, Minato, I'm really sorry about it, but according to my intel as well as the spy network, there was not even a sign of Naruto across the elemental nations, as Minato slammed his face into the table. In all of these 2 months, he was trying desperately to find his abandoned son, because Naruto possessed the weapon, as well as he has shown that he has the power of the dark release as well as the shadow release, the very power which made the Uzumakis very feared across the elemental nations. And now his abandoned son has all of that power in his hand, and the war for Konoha is going bad, really bad for some reason, somehow, as all the elemental nations leaders got a scroll how to counter the abilities of the flying thunder god technique, as Minato barely survived with his life last time he entered into the battlefield. Flashback 1 month after both, you can say, Menma and Naruto got their chakra of the nine-tails extracted as the armies of Aiwa as well as Kuma were marching towards, you can say, one of the section of Hinokuni as Minato was given direct orders from the daimyo that he has to come himself and end this battle as quick as possible because he's not going to allow these armies to enter into his nation as Minato obliges to that as he arrives confident that his flying thunder god technique could easily take care of this army, but to his utter shock when he threw all of his kunais there as both A as well as Mizu as well as Onoki had huge smirks on their faces, but Minato did not thought any of it as he teleported into the area. But then all of the shinobi slammed their hand together and slam it into the ground as a ceiling array started to spread across the battlefield as Minato's utter horror. He simply could not feel the chakra of or the pull of the flying thunder god technique. No, he was not able to teleport. He has entered into a trap as he looked around into the area, and it was only, you can say, the intervention of Jiraiya as well as Tsunade that he was able to live with his life. And that was the day that all the Konoha knew that Minato was not invincible, that their Hokage got defeated by the hands of Onoki as well as A. As A wanted to kill Minato right there and then because if he killed him then he will have the title of the fastest shinobi in the elemental nations, but to no avail as Jiraiya entered in a sage mode and he was able to hold off A as well as Onoki for some time as Tsunade healed off Minato even though she did not like him, but still she had to do it. After all, Minato was the cage of Konoha and they really need their cage in a time like this when all the elemental nations has finally turned up against them as Minato was furious that day. He got humiliated in front of his armies as he thought that he would easily be able to end the war with himself, but now it seemed that somehow they got a counter for his technique, and to this day Minato still had suspicions that an Uzumaki must have given them that, and there was only one Uzumaki roaming around the elemental nations, a rogue Uzumaki to begin with, as Minato was furious at that. And now let us cut back to Kushina's point of view as she remembered the day when both Menma and Naruto were bring back from the battle against Aiwa Shinobi as Kushina was literally utterly shocked. She thought that how with 1000 Shinobi as well as Kakashi and both of them being Jinchurikis having been able to control up to 3 tails of 9 tails chakra, they should easily be able to destroy them, as she had let out a sigh of relief after seeing that the seal was intact as Minato also arrived there as Kushina started to examine the seal as her eyes widened at that as she said it cannot be. As Minato said, Kushina, what happened? As Kushina was trembling at that as Minato quickly came to the seal as he started to examine it as well as his eyes shot open at that as Jiraiya also was looking towards the seal of Menma as he simply shook his head as he said, the seal may be there, Minato, but you noticed that, didn't you? As Minato gritted his teeth as he said, bring me Kakashi now, as Aambu simply nodded at that as Kakashi was being there as Minato shot a glare towards him as Kakashi was on the wheelchair as well as missing an arm as Minato simply shook his head. What happened, Kakashi? As Kakashi simply gulped as he started to explain the situation as Kushina was also furious at that as this seal only possessed bare minimum chakra. That was the only reason both Menma and Naruto were alive to begin with. As she could not believe that how they have lost the Jinchurikis of the 9 tails, and that moment Minato knew that he was really in for a serious trouble. Same was with Kushina. And now let us start. As Minato glared towards Jiraiya, what good is your spy network if it cannot find a single boy, Jiraiya? I have given you years. Before, I thought that you were just stalling, but now you know the condition of our village. We need him back. As Jiraiya simply shook his head, Minato, I told you years ago that how you're making a mistake, but it seems that it is really starting to catch up to Konoha. It does not matter, as I was saying before, my duties to Konoha are simple as that. I try my best, but it seems that thanks to the help of the Dark Release as well as the Shadow Release he possessed, he can easily hide anywhere in the elemental nations and no one would be able to find it. And Naruto was always unpredictable. There is no way we can find him like this. As Shikaku Nara speak up, but we have to do something. We did not plan for all of these things for years, only for it to crumble. You and I both know the condition of Konoha. At this point, the elemental nations will crush us. As Minato simply looked towards Jiraiya, waiting for an answer. As Jiraiya sighed, well, what can I say about it? I was not a part of any of these stupid plans you guys were making to begin with. It is all because of Sensei and your own dilemmas. As you can say, as Shikaku Nara narrowed his eyes, it does not matter anymore, Lord Jiraiya. As Jiraiya speak up, oh really, does it not matter? It is only because of your own foolishness, because of the council foolishness that we are in this situation, even with this your whole grand scheme of taking over the elemental nations and all of that thing. If you had not banished Naruto, none of this would have ever happened to begin with. As all of the council members simply scoff at that, as Jiraiya simply looked towards them, especially the elders, and especially you guys. You are the one who are always pushing that Naruto should be banished and should be punished about different things and all that. As Hamura speak up, that brat was a danger to the village. As Jiraiya said, oh really, was he a danger, or was that traitor of an Uchiha a danger to the village, As there was a silence in the room as Kushina speak up. Now that is enough, Jiraiya. We do not have time for this. You are a spy master. You have to find him. We have to get the weapon of the Uzumaki clan back. It should belong to me. I am the heiress to the Uzumaki clan. As Jiraiya simply shook his head. It does not matter, Kushina. I simply cannot find him. With his abilities, it is impossible to keep track of him. As she gritted her teeth at that, she did not wait for years so that only because of, you can say, that stupid demon brat could get the weapon from her hand. She will never allow it. As you can say, but before any of them could say anything, a boom could be heard across the village as all the council members shook at that. As Minato said, what is going on here? As all of them simply went outside to see, there were several, you can say, small airplanes flying over the village, as well as small paper bombs were dropping from the airplane. As Minato gritted his teeth, what is going on here? As you can say, Danzo speak up. As he said, the Sky Country. It is the technology of the Sky Country. It seemed that they have joined the alliance of the elemental nations. As Minato gritted his teeth at that, it is really harming the village, as several of these small paper bombs were dropping on several buildings and destroying their property, as all of them started to fight off against the army. Well, I will not cut it. Now let us cut back to, you can say, far away place in the elemental nations, as 4 cages were sitting across each other. These were none other than the cages of the 4 elemental nations and some of the minor villages leaders. The Tsuchikage, the Roy Kage, the Mizukage, as well as the Kazekage Gara, as all of them were sitting across each other. As A speak up, we have already covered half of the 5 nation. It should be easy enough to get to the SA speak up. Konoha's days as the strongest village has finally come to an end, as all of the cages simply nodded at that, as Unoki simply started to laugh. Well, I totally cannot believe my luck. I only got the scroll on my table out of nowhere. As AM narrowed his eyes, same was the condition with me, and as well as it had several secrets of the whole Hinokuni as well as Konoha itself. As Cage also nodded at that as Gara said, to be honest, it is a pretty, you can say, suspicious condition, but I'm not complaining anymore. Konoha is a threat to all of the elemental nations and shall be dealt with. As Mizukage simply nodded at that, well, I'm wondering about something in all of this situation, as all of them simply looked towards her as she said, well, about this so-called weapon of the Sage of Six Part that was contained by the Uzumakis and now is said to be in the hands of Konoha. Can anyone tell me about it? I did hear some rumors from some of the elders that took part in the second Great Ninja War, but they are nothing clear about it. As Gara simply nodded as that, as A raised an eyebrow. Well, there are some records in Kumo, as we have several of the weapons of the Sage of Six Part or the artifacts which he personally made, but that weapon is said to be one of the strongest he had ever made, and to be honest, I do not know much about it. As I simply looked back towards Onoki, he was the only person who took part in the second great ninja war and knew about some things about the war itself. As Onoki sighed, well, it seems that I have to tell you guys the story of the second great ninja war, but in simple words, it is just like this. And all the elemental nations as well as their cages got some of the tip from an unknown source that how the Uzumakis possess such a weapon and they are planning to use it against the elemental nations. That was the main reason all the elemental nations come together to destroy the Uzushio Gakure, and same was the case with my master or my predecessor, the previous Tsuchikage. We got their reports as well as the weapon is said to be in the form of some sword or something like it. And it has the power to control all the bijus at the same time. Whoever shall possess the sword shall be able to command all the bijus without any trouble. It does not matter if it is one tails or the nine tails itself. After all, the sword is said to be the one which cut off, you can say, which birthed the bijus to begin with, or rather cut off all of them from a one singular source. Something about Jubi, but to be honest, it is just myths and nothing more than that. As all of them simply shook their head as it said, well, if such a weapon is possessed by Konoha, why they are not using it? By using such power, they should be easily able to win this war or try to push us back. As things stand, we could easily crush Konoha in no time. As A laughed, well, Minato is using the civilians of the Hainokuni to push us back. He's just throwing them in front of us, not using his own shinobi and things like that. I thought that he was braver than that. As Anuki chuckled, well, after his last display, he came here quite confident, didn't he? Well, he ran away after seeing that his prize technique can no longer work on us. As A simply nodded at that. Now I am the fastest shinobi in the world. He can teleport all he wants. We can easily subdue him now. As the simply nodded at that, while on the other hand Gaara was thinking about different things. As what is going on in the elemental nations and all that. And now let us have a small time skip as let's just say 15 days has passed. In this time as Jiraiya was trying his best to get some information on Naruto even though he does not want it, but still Konoha comes first and he will never be able to choose a single person over the loyalty to his, you can say, home. As much as he loves Naruto as a godson, but still he has a responsibility in Konoha and he simply cannot abandon it. While on the other hand, Tsunade was already having second thoughts about this all. This was not the village her grandfather built. No, Hiruzen Sarutobi as well as Minato has literally destroyed the village in its own corruption and all that, and she was really hating that all, and she was just waiting for something to happen so she could leave the village. But at this point, it was impossible to leave the village, even with her son in riots. This was a time of a war, and they were losing badly, really badly. And now let us cut back to Jiraiya as finally a scroll was in front of him as a toad was reverse summoned in front of him as he said, Jiraiya-sama, we have some information about regarding the topic which you gave us. As Jiraiya raised an eyebrow at that as he said, oh really? As he picked up the scroll, as he started to read it, as his eyes widened at that, he simply could not believe in the content that was in the scroll. As his eyes widened as he said, oh no, I have to tell Minato now, as he quickly ran off into the, you can say, Minato's office. As secretary said, Lord Jiraiya, Lord Hokage is in the council meeting. As Jiraiya quickly nodded at that, as he quickly jumped in towards the council room, as he slammed the doors open, as all of them were discussing some strategies how they can repel the armies. As Minato was still confident that once they got the weapon in their hands, it will not matter. He will destroy the army with that weapon in his hands. As all of them looked towards Jiraiya, as Minato said, Jiraiya, what are you doing here? As Jiraiya said, Minato, I got some information. As Minato's eyes widened at that, you got the information on him? As Jiraiya simply shook his head. It is something else, Minato. You have to know this. As Minato, as well as all the council members, looked towards Jiraiya, wondering what type of information did he got this time. As he said, it's about Uzushio Gakure. It's back, Minato. The Uzushio Gakure is back. As all of their eyes widen at that, As Minato said, what? What are you talking about? Uzushio was destroyed to the point where it simply cannot be rebuilt no matter what. As Jiraiya simply shook his head, I got the information from my spy network as well as some of my own personal tours have confirmed it. The Uzushio is back, even though there is some barrier there, but there are still people roaming across the Uzushio with red hair. It is only a possibility, Minato, but the Uzumakis are back in the world of living, as there was dead silence in the whole chamber, as dread was creeping in their hearts at that name. As Minato simply could not believe it, as he said, what? It is not possible, damn it! As he stood up from it, as Danzo spoke up, as he said, so the Uzumakis are back. How is that even possible? They were slaughtered to the last man, even though. As we got some of the blood for ourselves, as he looked towards Kushina, as who was simply had a blank look on her face, wondering what is going on. As Jiraiya simply shook his head. I have some theories, but only one thing comes to my mind as Chicago Nara speaker. I don't think that the Edo Tensei would have worked that way. Even if he were to bring those people back, they would still be just puppets and zombies, nothing more than that. As Jiraiya simply shook his head, well actually, there is another thing which can bring the dead back to the world of living. And what will that be? As all of them simply narrowed their eyes toward Jiraiya, and that would be the Rinnegan. As there were gasps could be heard across the chamber, as Minato simply looked towards him. Your student, Nagato, was it? Wasn't he the one who had the Rinnegan? As Jiraiya simply shook his head, I do not know, Minato. Nagato should have died, as well as all of my other students in the whole scheme in the Rain village. As he simply looked towards Danzo, who was, you can say, shifting a bit nervously at that, but Jiraiya simply dismissed it for the time being. As he said, only Nagato had the Rinnegan, but it is the only possibility. If he were to bring back the Uzumakis using the Edo Tensei and use the abilities of the Rinnegan, then he should be able to bring all of them back permanently. As Minato slammed his face into the ground, how many of them are? As Jiraiya simply looked towards Minato as he said, Minato, you do realize that Uzumakis used to live a long of time, even though some of the clans only consist of a mere 1,000 members, but the Uzumakis were known to be the clan which had the most members. After all, they were able to fulfill a whole village on the same scale as Konoha by only their own members of clan. So, it should be around 12,000 to 15,000 people, even though I do not know the exact amount. It is a rough estimate, as Minato as well as all the members were simply looking towards each other. This amount of shinobis, even though Konoha at one point possessed 30,000 shinobis from Genin to the Jonins. But at this point, they have lost a large portion of their army and they're barely about 6,000 shinobis. As they simply looked towards each other, but then suddenly a chuckle could be heard across the chambers as all of them were a bit confused. They looked back towards where it was coming from. It was none other than Kushina, who was chuckling at that as she said, so my so-called family is back, huh? As she gritted her teeth, but then a smirk came to her face. Well, who said that? History repeats itself, doesn't it? As all of them simply looked towards Kushina for some time, wondering what she is trying to imply, as then suddenly a smirk came to the face of Minato as he figured out what his beloved wife was talking about, as he started to laugh as he said, well, it was quite a bold move by your hand, son, but it seems that you have made a grave mistake. As he started to laugh, as all the, you can say, council members were simply looking towards Minato as if he has finally lost it. As then Minato smirked as he said, well, as he simply looked towards, you can say, one of the council members as an Ambu, as he said, send a message to the all the cages in the elemental nations. Send them a cage summit. It's about time we deal with the biggest threat to the world. As all the council members were confused for some moment, but then their eyes widened at that. If the Uzumakis are back, which means that they can turn this war against them, and they can unite with the other elemental nations, claiming that the Uzumakis have the weapon which they thought that the Konoha had it, and they are back and they want revenge. Then all the other elemental nations will turn on the Uzumakis, and then they will be able to destroy it just like the last time. After all, the history does repeat itself, doesn't it? As I started to laugh at that, at Jiraiya, even though it was his duty, felt a bit sad about the whole situation. But it was his duty as a Konoha shinobi, while on the other hand, Tsunade was literally shocked. Even though most of the people tend to forget it, Tsunade was a part Uzumaki, so a part of her family was finally back to the, you can say, in the world of living, as she simply shook her head wondering if she should leave the village and go to the Uzumaki clan. After all, in Konoha there is nothing left for her. And now let us cut back to Tsunade as she was finally in the Senju compound as she was trying to think what she should actually do. It seemed that the Uzumaki clan is once again is going to be targeted by all the elemental nations. She knew that even though Konoha is losing, but if the Uzumaki's presence were to be announced to the world once again, even though she did not even thought about how they did even came back to life to begin with, and to be honest, she did not care at this point. She has seen so many strange things in her life and all that, and she literally do not care anymore. As she was thinking about all of these things, but then suddenly, you can say, the space in front of her started to get disoriented as her eyes widened as she was prepared for any type of battle. But then suddenly, a hooded figure finally entered into her room as she narrowed her eyes towards the figure as the figure had a hoodie on its face. As Tsunade said, I do not know who you are, but I must say you are quite brave if you think that you can take me on. As the figure started to chuckle, well, of course I can take you on, Bachan. As Tsunade's eyes widened at that. As Tsunade's eyes widened at that, as Naruto removed the, you can say, hood from his face and said, Yo, been a while, wouldn't you agree, Bachan? But before he could say anything, he met with a punch to his face, which sent him flying into the wall. As Naruto said, well, it seems that your temper is as such as I remembered, huh? And they started to chuckle as Tsunade's head, you can see small tears in her eyes as she quickly hugged him and all that. Well, I will not go into that all, you can say, things. So, yeah, but in the end of the day, as Naruto simply looked at Tsunade as I said, so, Bachan, now you have only two choices. You can either remain in this village, the very village your grandfather built, or you can come with me to your family, the only living relatives you have in the whole world. You and I both know that this is not the Konoha Hashirama built, along with Tobirama. Hiruzen Sarutobi has destroyed the village ideals as well as, and same with the case with my so-called father, the fourth Hokage, as Naruto rolled his eyes at that, as Tsunade simply shook her head. Naruto, wasn't there any way to avoid all of this? You know that the fourth great ninja war has already begun, and you should already know that Konoha knows about the Uzumaki clan. I do not know how you did it, but they know it, that how the Uzumaki clan are back, and Minato want to bring all the elemental nations together to end this war and start an invasion on the Uzushio. As Naruto started to chuckle as he said, well, to be honest, Bachan, I already know about all of it, and don't worry about it. I will deal with it when the time comes. As for now, your offer is still standing. If you want to come with me, I can take you away. No one will be able to find out whatsoever. It is really up to you, Bachan. As Tsunade thought it for some time. Well, Naruto, it seems that the Konoha, which I knew once, is no longer. The Konoha which my grandfather built is no longer. This is only a twisted image of the place which my grandfather loved and gave his life for. So, I'll be leaving this place. As Naruto had a small smile on his face, but then suddenly a frown came to the face of Tsunade. Naruto, what about Jiraiya? As Naruto sighed, he was hoping to avoid that topic as he simply shook his head. I simply cannot do anything for him, Bachan. As Tsunade said, but you have to understand, Naruto, he tried to help you. He was even more than ready to go after you to protect you, but Minato came back along with Kushina and they stopped him. As Naruto simply shook his head, you do not understand, Bachan. His love for this place, even though it has twisted far beyond anything the world has seen, and he knows it, the ideology, the very soul of Konoha is no more. He will never abandon this place. He will always stand by Konoha, no matter how many bad things this village do. He will never abandon it. You and I both know that. As Tsunade sighed at that, knowing that Naruto was right, as she simply shook her head. Can't you do anything? As Naruto sighed. Well, in the future, we will see what happened to Jiraiya. As for now, I think that we should leave. As Tsunade simply nodded at that, as she simply went off along with Naruto into a space-time jutsu, as they all of them simply vanished at that. And now let us cut back to the small summit that was of the cages as Anoki as well as Gara and Mei were simply reading the letters from the Hokage as their eyes widened at that. It was a request for the 5K summit, not for Minato to surrender but rather about the weapon of the Uzumaki clan and about a secret, and they were a bit interested in it as well. And so finally they arrived as 1 week has passed and the 5K summit has finally been summoned as all the 5 kgs were sitting across the table as Anoki was simply looking towards Minato with a smirk on his face, as well as last time they simply beat Minato around with their superior speed and techniques and all that, even though Minato was a cage level shinobi but fighting off against Roy Kage as well as Anoki without his Hiraishin was a suicide move to begin with, and he was trapped into it because of his own arrogance. And Minato had a blank look on his face as Gaara spoke up. Well, Lord Hokage, it seems that you have summoned the meeting, so I presume we can start it and get this over with. I have other things to deal with. As Minato simply nodded at that, as Onoki spoke up, so what this is about? Some Uzumaki's secret weapon and things like that. So, are you ready to tell us about the weapon of the Uzumakis? To be honest, it does not matter to begin with. We can deal with anything. And Minato simply smirked at that. Oh really? I have some great news for all of you. And trust me, when you hear it, you will have your opinions change about attacking Konoha. As Mei simply smirked as she said, oh really, Hokage? We will love to know that then. As Minato smirked as he said, well, it's about the past sins your nations have committed. It has come back to bite all of you. As all of them simply raised an eyebrow about it, and Minato said, you may be right about one thing. Konoha once possessed the weapon of the Uzumaki clan, even though we were not able to use it because of our own morals, knowing that it was wrong, as all of them simply scoffed at that inwardly. As Minato said, as I was saying, but it was stolen by one of the Uzumaki, which remain un as this Uzumaki was none other than Naruto Uzumaki, as Gaara narrowed his eyes towards Minato as Minato noticed that but ignored it for the time being, and it seemed that he has summoned or rather bring back the Uzushio Gakure, as there was dead silence in the place after those words left the mouth of Minato. After all, they remembered the second great ninja war, or rather the massacre it was, as on one side it was Uzumaki clan as well as on the other side there were armies of the nations, even though they were able to kill all of them, but it was at a really high price. Their own men were simply slaughtered to a large degree. They lost over 75% of their armies and they barely survived from that. Even Onoki knew what type of massacre it actually was. And Onoki simply shook his head. What are you talking about, Hokage? If this is something to divert us from not attacking your nation, then it is not going to work. As Minato simply shook his head, I'm not lying or anything like it. Jiraiya has confirmed it, and this is the small footage we were able to gather from the Uzushio Gakure as he bring some hand signs, and then finally you can say a projectile was made as all of them saw a barrier, as well as from the inside some of the places as the whole buildings were deformed and some of the red haired people walking around the place as their eyes widened at that as speak up. How is that even possible? Our man killed them all. It is simply not possible. As Minato smirked, this was going just as he planned. Well, it is only possible in one condition, and that is that Naruto Uzumaki possessed the Rinnegan, as well as he possessed the powers of you guys once known as the Black Dragon of Uzushio, the Dark Race itself, as all of them simply looked towards Minato in utter shock as Gaara speak up, well, Hokage, if I'm not mistaken, this Uzumaki Naruto could also be considered as a Namikaze Naruto. After all, he is your son. As all of them simply came back to reality as they simply looked towards Minato. As Minato simply shook his head, he was hoping to avoid this question as he said, well, it does not matter anymore. He has betrayed Konoha. As Gaara speak up before Minato could complete sentence, betrayed, It seems that your memory is really off, Hokage. I did a bit of research on my own after you came back to the village. It seemed that you abandoned him on his very day he was born just because he has the soul of the Kyuubi and your other children had the chakra of the Biju. You wanted to train them, so you left him to the misery and in the hands of the wolves of your villagers. As Minato narrowed his eyes, he was hoping to avoid this all of that information. It will not suit well, but it does not matter anymore. As Gaara spoke up, and in the end of the day, he was banished before you actually came back, didn't it? Huh? When he only had a soul, and your village council, in all of its wisdom, thought him to be a threat to the village because of the Biju, who did not even have any power to harm anyone to begin with. As Minato created his state at that, even though he was an enemy against all of these nations, he still had his, you could say, dignity and all that, and Gaara was literally destroying it in front of everyone. And Honoki speak up. So tell us, Okage, is it really true? As Minato speak up, well, Naruto was simply, you could say, raised without us, even though we thought him to be better, but it seemed that we left him with his godparents such as Jiraiya and Lady Tsunade, but it seemed that they were not able to raise him properly. He got arrogant, and I do not know what Lord Kazekage is saying, but my son was treated as a hero in a village, and it seemed that that made him pretty power hungry and all that, so he stole the Uzumaki relic as well as the secret weapon of the Sage of Six Parts because he wanted power for itself, and after that he was banished from Konoha when he tried to hurt another loyal shinobi of Konoha, as Gaara literally scoffed at that. As far as I remember, Hokage, I was in that mission as well. That was a traitor of an Uchiha. He only is alive because he was the last member, wasn't he? As Minato simply, you could say, ignored him. As I was saying, it does not matter about my son, and what I'm saying is truly true. I am his father. I do not want any harm come to him, and you can say Gaara literally rolled his eyes at that, and but it seemed that he has become a threat to the village, and with his Rinnegan, he has somehow obtained as well as his own Kekigenka. He is a danger to the elemental nations and any person and a leader of this world. One of the leaders of this world, I presume all of us combine our forces to end once again and the Uzusho. Otherwise, they will try to attack the other elemental nations, thus disturbing the balance of power. As all of them literally looked towards each other, they were so close to destroying Konoha, but one thing is for certain, the Uzumaki clan was even more of a danger, especially if with what Minato is saying true. If that brat can bring back all of those Uzumaki from dead and has the power of the dark release itself as well as the secret weapon of the Sage of Six Parts, that he's the most dangerous person at this moment roaming across the elemental nations. They have to take him down no matter what. As A and Onoke simply looked towards each other, as Mei was also thinking about all of this, as Gaara was also wondering what he should actually do. If Naruto isn't there, then he simply cannot attack him. After all, he was one of his friends. And Naruto has proposed no danger to his village, but still, for someone to have that type of power, it even though Gaara does not like to admit it, it does scare him a little. And especially being a Jinchuriki himself, he knows that how he could be literally controlled by that weapon itself. And Gaara simply shook his head. He has full confidence in Naruto, which means that he will not abandon his friend in such a time of need. But at this moment, he needs to know what the other elemental nations are trying to plan against his friend. And Minato had a huge smirk on his face, knowing that what the decision is actually going to be. As Onoki simply looked towards Minato, well, Hokage, we have come to the decision that at the current moment, the Uzushio Gakure is the immediate danger to the world. But do not forget, after this war against the Uzushio is over, we will once again put our eyes on Konoha. It does not matter, Konoha has reigned supreme for long enough. It's about time that they shall pay for their crimes, as Minato said. But of course, we will be more than ready to push you back. But at this point, we just need to destroy the Uzushio, just like we did all of those years ago. As Onoki narrowed his eyes, so my assumption was correct, wasn't it? It was Konoha which leaked the information about the defense as well as all the other information about the Uzumakis to the other elemental nations. You betrayed your own allies, didn't you? As Minato came to the Black Cloak, it was a necessary evil at the time. As Anoki chuckled, huh, you're saying that when your own wife is an Uzumaki to begin with. As Minato said, well, it does not matter. Kushina has proven her loyalty years ago. After all, she was the one who bring us the information about the seals as well as about the whole Uzumaki clan. She knew that her clan was a danger to the world and she chose world over the Uzumaki clan. As all of them simply scoff at that, well, it does not matter. We have a clan to crush once again. It seemed that the history will repeat itself. Elemental nations once again against the Uzushio Gakure. As Onoki simply smirked at that, huh, well, that will definitely bring back memories, wouldn't you? Agree. Mifune, as the leader of the Iron Country, was sitting there silently as well as listening to all of this. As far as he could remember, when he was just a young apprentice, his master was also involved in the whole destruction of the Uzushio Gakure because they were too powerful and they possessed too much power. They could seal away the Bijus with a single array, thus making the other elemental nations weak. They could create barriers, they could make a shinobi lose his chakra for eternity, they could even seal away time and space itself. They were dangerous to a great level. That was the reason they were destroyed in the first place. And it seemed that once again they pose the same danger to the world. A single clan is not meant to have this much power. They are needed to be eradicated for the, you can say, the balance of the world, as Shuki said. Even though I do not want to do it, but it seemed that for the good of the world, we have to do it no matter what. As all of them simply nodded at that, as Gara was a bit skeptical, but it seemed that he will need a bit more thinking. But at this point, he could agree and get this over with. As he said, well, if you guys say so, so be it. As all of them put their hands together, as I said, so it is done. The first thing we will deal with is the Uzumaki clan, as all of them simply nodded at that as Minato smirked. Just you wait, my dearest son, once you're down, I shall have that weapon for myself and then destroying the armies will be nothing. Konoha will rule supreme. As I started to laugh maniacally in his head. So yeah guys, here I will leave this part. Hope you guys enjoyed it. For the next part, you guys already know the like goal is going to be 200 likes and 150 comments. Do that and I shall upload the next part as quick as possible. So yeah guys, hope you enjoyed it. Peace and subscribe.